Hey everybody, I have spent the day reading your practicum logs with your first submission and then read your portfolio submissions this morning. All of these works were really well done. Just to talk briefly about your portfolio, you have done iteration 1 and 2 so far. Ideally, your second submission would have included recommendations for improvement from your first submission. In your final submission in Practicum Log Part 3, all the recommended changes need to be done for a final synthesis of your practicum log. Not your practicum log, your portfolio. You can tell it's been a long day. So when you look at your portfolio, before you start working on part 3, I want you to make sure that you've gone through and made adjustments to part 1 and part 2. There are things that have been placed in your portfolio feedback that were just recommendations. And these are things that would enhance it but aren't required. If you lost points in a section, that's it's not recommended you need to do this. So make sure that before you start your third and final version of your portfolio that you've integrated changes and recommended changes from part 1 and part 2. I want to remind you that part 3 of your portfolio is going to have a roll-up or a final version of your goals and objectives file. It's going to be the same file that you put in Typhon during your first couple of weeks of 618. What's going to be different is you're going to go back through all of your Typhon logs and you're going to put a date when you have accomplished each goal and each objective. This is a really good time right now to go ahead and pull that document out, go back through Typhon and start documenting when those goals and objectives were accomplished. And if there are things that either you haven't begun to address or that you've had things in progress but you haven't finalized them, you need to be intentional before you submit your practicum log 2 and your practicum log 3 that you've accomplished those stated goals and objectives. It's the expectation that all the goals and objectives that you set forth in Nursing 618 have been accomplished prior to the course 620 closing. So you're just at the halfway point now, so you've got enough time that if you've lost track of things that you can still correct them. So get your goals and objectives file, go back through your Typhon logs and figure out what you've met and what's still in progress, and be intentional about wrapping all of those up. One of the artifacts that you're going to submit in your portfolio, your final version, is that Word document with all of the completion dates written in red font alongside the goals and objectives. So this is just a heads up. Make sure you're paying attention to the need to be attentive to these details. The other thing to remember if you're beginning to think about your portfolio third section, and folks, this isn't due for a couple of weeks. I just know it's been my experience that people start thinking, I can get this off my plate. So if you're one of those, I'm trying to get things off my plate and you want to do this early, just make sure that you go through the artifacts checklist and you check off a varied type of file, and that you are thoughtful about putting your best work in your portfolio. There's some things that are going to be put in your portfolio that are going to have to be put in as an attachment, like a PowerPoint that doesn't have an audio file, that isn't a link like on YouTube, but just a PowerPoint. Because of the complexity of that, you're not going to be able to do anything but attach that file in your portfolio. Things that are URLs or web links to videos maybe you've done, those are going to be embedded files. You're going to put in the hyperlink and make it part of your portfolio so that your viewer can click on the video and it plays within the system. And those instructions are available for you. If you have trouble with that, holler at me and I can see if I can provide some more detail. The idea is that your final version of the portfolio is everything that you've done in part 1 and part 2. You've added these final artifacts in your service, and it is a synthesized professional portfolio. It shows the best of you as a practicing nurse and someone who is beginning a career as a novice educator. So you really want to be intentional about making this your best work. So just wanted to mention that. Your excuse me, your practicum time logs, make sure that your time is on track to accomplish your 200 hours prior to the end of this course. If for some reason you're already at 200 hours or more, send me an email and talk to me about what your plan is. If you're planning to just continue to accomplish these hours, or if you've accomplished your goals and objectives, if you've accomplished your goals and objectives and you've already completed 200 hours, send me an email and let's talk about some options for finishing out your practicum course if you've already met your hours. Okay. I think those are all of my notes. Let's talk about your integrative literature review part 2. Your submitted file for this assignment is just your matrix. It's the Excel spreadsheet. You're going to turn that into Blackboard as a submitted file for grading. It is important that you use the Excel spreadsheet and that you properly format it so that it's readable. Make sure that you're using the wrap text feature so that when you drop something into a cell, it's collated all in one cell, that it doesn't spread over into other areas. If you're not proficient with Excel and you're having difficulty, make sure that you're using resources. The Liberty Online tech support can do some basic things. If you're unsure about what goes in what box, you can touch base with me. Let me talk briefly about some areas that typically students struggle with. The first thing that students struggle with are the first 2 boxes, research method and research design. So what I want to remind you is the research method is the approach to how the research question is being addressed by the author. How are they going to answer the research question? So most often you're looking at a qualitative method or a quantitative method. It's not the whole research design or the study design. Study design is the next category, and the study design is the plan or the protocol for conducting the study. These are all of the logistics. How are they going to get their sample? What's their sample method? What's their research question? What's their plan for analysis? And again, how the data is going to be collected. The research or the study design is the logistics of how are we going to accomplish this. The research method, which is in that first column, is just how they're going to collect the data. What's that process going to be? Okay, so make sure that it is not uncommon to flip-flop those categories. Just be sure if you're reading your article that you're looking for method and design. And method should be pretty straightforward about the exact way they're going to approach the research question, and the design is going to have a little bit more detail about their total approach to their research study. If you can't find either one of those in the article, it is likely that you are not reading a research article, and that article should not be included in your matrix. So be sure that as you are pulling those first 20 to 25 articles and you're reading those abstracts, that first and foremost, you're dealing with a research article. If you are not, you're going to remove that from your selected process or your selection. The other thing that often students struggle with is the column that has theoretical framework. Your theoretical framework is how the authors designed their study to be supported by a theory. Now, I will tell you that that's best practice. Good researchers are using a theoretical framework to give an underpinning or structure to their research project. We'll also tell you that not every research project is going to have a theoretical framework. So if you have a study method, you have a study design, and there doesn't happen to be a framework, please don't panic. Just put none and just keep moving. Okay. The other thing to be sure that you are doing when in one of the columns you're going to exclude or include, and that's a literally include or exclude. That's all you have to put. The rationale, that very last column, is telling me why the article that you've selected is going to be included or excluded. And I'm going to encourage you not to put because it relates to my topic or because it doesn't relate to my topic. That doesn't really address a good rationale for why you would keep an article. I want you to talk specifically about the theme of the article, the results of the article, the population of the article. How is it specifically relevant to your PICO and research study question? So just take your time with this. You do need 20 to 25 articles in your matrix, and when you're done, at least 15 of those have to be included and be quality scholarly articles. Another thing to remind you is when you look at levels of evidence, it's part of your instruction sheet. It gives you the list of levels of evidence. I think I mentioned this maybe last week or the week before. In your study selection, you are excluding all systematic reviews that are currently being published, and you're excluding all gray material. So anything that's an editorial, a commentary, an opinion piece, that's not research. So you're going to get rid of that. So you should have levels 4 to level 6. You're not going to have level 1, and you're not going to have level 7. And the reason that you do that is level 7 doesn't have rigor, and level 1 is not primary literature, and it is not appropriate to put that in your integrative literature review. It has to be primary sources, not rolled up summaries of what's already out in the literature. Okay, folks, I think I have covered everything. One last comment. In your Prisma model, you've got questions 17 through 23. If you follow your matrix and you fill out that matrix correctly, you're going to accomplish all questions 17 through 23. That matrix is designed to answer these questions and to help you do a thorough analysis of the data that you're pulling from your research articles. So, as you prepare to do this, be sure that you've bullet pointed your blueprint from your integrative literature review part 1. What did you say you were going to do? What search engines are you using? What keywords, key phrases, Boolean phrases, and filters are you using? And do what you said you were going to do. Now, if you go through that and you can't find what you think you're going to find, then you're going to go back to part 1 and make some adjustments. Okay. And I gave some feedback about that last week, about kind of that process of what do I adjust first? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and just assume you've got a bad question. It may be your key terms that need to be adjusted. It may be that your idea is a little bit older than you thought it was, so instead of 5 years, you need 10 years. Maybe you need a database because you've picked one that doesn't carry a lot of nursing journals. Be open to tweaking part 1 before you throw out all of your research question and feel like you need to start over. Reach out to me. If you're struggling with this, just holler at me. Say, Dr. Hudgens, I'm lost. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't understand this question. I am happy to help you walk through this. As I said last week, I want to remind you that the process of writing an integrative literature review, that the journey of this is as important as you learning something about your content or your question. That's a secondary benefit. I want you to understand the process and the rigor in this so that it can be replicated after you graduate. So be attentive to the journey, not just the outcome of finding what you want to find in the literature. Okay, I think that's it. Touch base with any questions or concerns. Continue to use the Ask the Professor link in the discussion boards. Anything personal, please feel free to send to me privately as an email. You are over the halfway point in this course, which puts you just under 4 weeks until you graduate. So this is a really exciting time. It is also the height of flu season. It is also the height of bad weather season. So all of you, I'm sure, have lots and lots of things going on. Please remember to take care of yourself. Please remember that sleep is not optional, that you cannot live on caffeine and cupcakes, although if I could figure out how to live on cupcakes, I would so do it. Take care of yourself, folks. This is when your body is under stress. You know this, your nurses. All of your ability to fight infection, all of your ability to keep those cortisol levels at a low level, keep the infections at bay, you are vulnerable. And the more stressed you are, the more self-care you need. So be sure that you're eating, that you're resting, that you're managing your stress, that you're spending time with people that like you to refill that emotional well. Everything's going to get done. It's going to be okay from an academic standpoint. But you crawling across the finish line, worn and tattered, is never the goal. So make sure you're doing those self-care things. Know that I'm praying for you, that I'm thinking about you, and that I'm here. Be in touch with any questions or concerns. Have a great week, folks.